Are you a new business and are you ready to hire your first employee? Have you ever interviewed before? Do you know what to do when you interview? This is what today's session is all about, and Clara's going to be sharing her secrets. See you in a moment. Welcome to the heart and mind of business. This is all for you if you are a new entrepreneur, helping you make that fantastic journey into building an amazing business. Today's all about interviewing and having a strategy for interviewing. That's something you've done a lot of, Clara, isn't it?
It is actually over the years. Having been in business for myself for so many years, I've had many opportunities to hire people to work for me, actual employees, but outside of that, other kinds of people, other kinds of help, which we've talked about as well on this show. Doesn't have to be a regular wage earner to get the help that you need, but either way, you have to interview them, right? So you have making sure you're getting a good fit.
You're right. So if people are joining this and they want to know the different ways, they can have a look at one of our previous episodes, can't they? Because like you said, we talked about are you ready for some help? That's what it's called. Are you ready for some help? See, I just have to have a quick look. So you're right. It's all the different ways. So if they're interested in that, check out that video first. But yeah, I mean, I've interviewed when I was corporate, but haven't interviewed as being my own boss. And I can imagine it feels a really different prospect.
I think that it probably does. When you're interviewing for a corporation, right? Somebody has pre-decided for you what the criteria is for this person, and likely they've come through the human resources department and some vetting has already been done. Right? So you're not actually getting an interview with them until someone else has predetermined that you're going to get an interview with this potential person. It's very different when you work for yourself because now you are the whole process, and especially the small business owner. So you're the one who put out the call for resumes or applications. And I've experienced that where you got make 50 resumes come in, right? So then there's this process of pouring over that piece. And I'm usually very specific and strategic about that piece because I want to hire somebody who is going to be able to follow directions, right? So I always would ask for this application plus please attach current resume. You'd be surprised at how many people who won't attach their resume. But because so many people apply, that's one way that I can kind of weed through the people that I'm not even going to interview. If you didn't follow the instructions to that point, that's not a good sign.
Yeah. And I think to be clear, because we don't use the word resume over here, we have a CV, which is for a curriculum vitae.
Same idea.
Same idea, just different language. And there might be other countries have different language and different terminology for it too. But yeah, you're right. It's if you're not doing a big application form where you're wanting all the details on the form, you might want them to send them the CV, and like you say, if they can't already follow an instruction,
something so simple,
that's a little bit of a red flag.
Yes, it is a little bit of a red flag. And the same is true if you're going to do a non-employee, like if you're going to hire a freelancer or a company that provides a specific service for you. There are ways that you can interact with them in the very beginning that's going to help you know. It's like going to be clues for you. For instance, when I put out for someone to do an edit project for me, I'm looking for a freelancer, pick up some extra editing work. As part of the process right up front, please submit a sample of your writing, right? And this criteria right here. And the people who don't bother to follow those simple instructions right up front, they don't get a call back for the next piece of the next step in the process, right? Because I need somebody who's paying attention to the details. So for me, that's an important piece. Another good example is if you're hiring an employee for, say, an early morning shift. Now, this is a big deal if you are in a brick and mortar business, or you're in a business where somebody needs to open a door at a certain time, right? I don't, in my business now, I don't have a brick and mortar where people come in. So if the door didn't open at 8, nobody's going to know that that person wasn't there at 8. But if you do have, like, as you know, this person has to unlock the doors at 6, a coffee shop or something, make their interview early in the morning. If they can't get up and be presentable and be there on time or early for that early morning interview, that's a sign they're maybe not a good position fit for an early morning shift.
Yeah, I like that. That's a really good tip. So almost you're giving them a bit of a tryout in more ways than just what they're intellectually capable of doing.
Right. And often people will say things on an application or a resume or a CV that sound really good, but they don't back it up in real life.
Right.
So that's where that being strategic about how you interview can really make a difference. You learn a lot about a person.
And I know in the interviews that I've ever done, not only do you say that you can do a particular task, you show how, when you've
Right.
done it, in what context you've done it. So through examples, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Would you ask for that in advance?
I usually don't ask for that piece, unless it's really dependent on the position. If that position is really labor intensive in a specific way, I might ask for several samples, or, in not the brief application process, but a little longer application that says, tell me a time when this happened and how you responded. So some of those kinds of things, people who won't take the time to fill those things out, that's a red flag for me. I've also used assessments, interestingly enough, as a way to pre-qualify people before the interview process. So you set the interview time and then say, I'm going to send you over an assessment link in advance. I'd like for you to do this assessment before we have the interview, and we can talk about the results during the interview. So those things can be, they could be personality assessments. They could be, I love strength finders because it's one of my personal favorites as far as assessments go, but it also shows me what their natural tendencies are, their natural strengths are, so that I can see that they're going to be a good fit in my project or my organization.
The other thing that came to mind as well, and that's great about, so you all the way you're learning lots of bits before you even meet them. What about references? Do you ever learn from another point of view before you meet them?
I usually don't check references until I've actually had the interview, mostly because that's a little more time consuming. I actually like to have a conversation with references when I check them. Email is not, and I learned this the hard way. Years and years ago, I hired somebody for my husband and I had a company, hired somebody to manage our books. And she had wonderful references, did the background check, checked her references by email, right? We did an email with reference check. I think I spoke with one of the 3 or 4 people that I spoke with. Everything looked wonderful, but in time and in truth, she ended up embezzling from our company. And then in the fallout of the embezzlement and all the information that comes out in the police investigation and all that fun stuff at the backside of things, all of her references were family.
Ooh.
So there's no way to really know from the information that I had that they were family. So it made me think differently about references and made me dig deeper for things. So, and interview differently, perhaps.
Do you ever, just lastly then, do you ever check on anything on social media before you meet with a person?
I absolutely do. Now that's a newer thing, right? That didn't used to be an option, but in the last 10 years, even 5 years, so much people put everything on social media. That not everyone, but a lot of people do, especially the younger generation. I can see what you had for dinner last night sometimes. Right?
Mm.
So as you think about a person's reputation and how it affects your reputation when you hire them, go to their Facebook page, their Twitter, their Instagram, wherever you can find them on social media, and just have a look. If their entire Facebook feed is full of, them partying hard every weekend, so that may be a clue that Mondays might be an issue if they're partying hard all weekend, or if everything on their social media, everything out of their mouth is foul or obnoxious, that's going to reflect on your business. And so absolutely take that into account.
So would you still interview them, or would you cross them off the list even before?
It just depends on how obnoxious it is. If they're really foul mouthed and they're so okay with being so obnoxious that they'll put it on their social media, I probably won't call them for an interview at all, because they're not a good fit for my brand. And I'm really, really careful and protective of my brand and my reputation as a company.
So really, it's being careful what you put out there then, for all of us.
It should be. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because people are paying attention. And thankfully, I was a young person when there was no way to capture the evidence of what I did. Right? Because we all did stupid things, right?
Yeah.
But there was no Facebook, there was no social media to forever capture that. Because once you've put it out there, it doesn't ever go away totally. So food for thought.
That is food for thought. So yeah, absolutely. So there was quite a few things to think about when you're looking for interviewing, and that's brilliant, because actually it kind of helps. It can be a daunting process, especially when it's the first time you're doing this and you want to get the right person. And like you say, maybe just go with your gut as well.
Yes, you're not always going to make the right choice when it comes to hire someone. And if you are an employer or you hire freelancers or contractors or whatever, for any length of time, you will make a poor decision about someone, but you can be very strategic about how you go about the process of bringing them into your world, into your ecosystem, and just put some things in place to protect you as much as possible.
Yeah.
As an organization.
Fabulous. As you would say, Clara, good stuff.
Good stuff. Yes, I do say
Good
that when there's
stuff. So thank you for sharing that. We all need stuff around interviewing, especially if we're going to be growing businesses. We don't necessarily want to keep them small and micro, but we might do, who knows? But knowing what to do and those steps for getting the best and knowing the most out of the people we might be taking on board is quite important. So remember to like and to comment. We want to know where you are on your business and whether you are thinking of taking on new employees at the moment. And subscribe. We've already told you about one of the other videos, which is related. And I think there'll be another one coming up, which is pretty related too. So there is lots going on, and it's all in relation to our book, 8 Ways to Mind Your Own Business. So you want to grab yourself a copy, because there's some fantastic information, the strategy stuff and also the mindset stuff to support your journey. So catch up on the videos, and thank you for sharing your time with us. We will
see you next week.
Take care.
Take care.